Lesson number 2, Religions of Ancient India. Hinduism is the world's oldest religion. It is the third of the largest religions, and after Christianity and Islam, Hinduism developed from the faith of the Aryans. The sacred writings, called the Vedas, teach key ideas of Aryan religion. At first, the Vedas had to be memorialized by the Brahmin priests and spoke out loud. Much later, they were written down in Sanskrit, and over time, the Aryan religion changed as it blended with the ideas of other people of India. This mix of belief eventually became Hinduism. What is Hinduism? Hinduism includes many beliefs and practices. A core belief of Hinduism is that there's one central spirit called Brahman. Ancient texts known as Upanishads, I don't know if I pronounced that one correctly, I've never heard that term, Upanishads describe the search for Brahman. These writings say that every living thing has a soul that is part of Brahman. The body is part of life on earth, and at death, the soul leaves the body and joins the Brahman. The Upanishads say that the soul becomes one with the Brahman, and like a lump of salt thrown into the water, the lump of salt is gone, but the water tastes salty. The salt has become part of the water. Most ancient Indians, however, could not easily understand the idea of Brahman. They believed in many different deities that were more like people. Hindus built temples and statues and held ceremonies for these deities. Eventually, these deities became the most important. Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the preserver, and Shiva, the destroyer. Over time, many of the Hindus came to think of all the deities as part of the Brahman, the universal spirit. Another part of Hinduism is a belief of reincarnation, or the rebirth of the soul. Hindus strive for moksha, the ultimate peace. Hindus believe that most souls do not reunite with Brahman immediately after death. Instead, each soul must first pass through many lives. Hinduism is the idea of reincarnation is closely related to another idea known as karma. According to karma, people's status in life is not an accident. It is based on what they did in their past lives. In addition, the things people do in this life decide how they will be reborn. If someone leads a bad life, that person is reborn into a lower life form. When good people die, their souls are reborn into a higher life form. Hindus believe that they have to earn a better existence in the next life. And to do that, they must follow dharma, or their personal duty. People's duties are different depending on their place in society. A farmer has different duties than a priest. Men have different duties than women. How did Hindus' beliefs shape the way of ancient India? For one thing, ancient Indians accepted Hindu life. All life is sacred in a Hindu's perspective. Animals as well as people are treated with kindness and respect. Beliefs such as reincarnation also made many Indians more accepting of the Varna system. A devout Hindu believed that people in a higher jeta were superior and deserved their status, and at the same time, the belief in reincarnation gave hope to people of every walk of life. A person who leads a good life is reborn into a higher jeta. Rise of Buddhism. During 500 BC, some Indians felt unhappy with the many ceremonies of the Hindu religion, and they wanted a simpler, more spiritual faith. They left their homes and looked for peace in the hills and the forest. Many trained their minds to focus and think of positive ways. This training was called meditation. Some seekers developed new ideas and became religious teachers. One of these teachers was, I'll have to work on this pronunciation, Siddhara Gautama. He became known as Buddha, which is much easier to pronounce. He founded a new religion called Buddhism, the Buddha. Today, Buddhism is one of the major religions. Most Buddhists live in Southeast Asia or East Asia. Only a few live in India, Buddhism's birthplace. Buddha was born around the year 563 BC. The exact date of his birth is not known. He grew up as a prince in the small kingdom of the Himalaya, near the Himalaya. Today, this area is in southern Nepal. As a young man, Buddha seemed to have everything. He was rich, he was handsome, happily married, and with a newborn son. And then one day he left his palace to explore the life of the ordinary people in the kingdom. And as he traveled, he was shocked at the misery and poverty around him. He saw beggars, people that were sick, the aged people, and nowhere to live. For the first time, he understood that the world was filled with suffering. Buddha gave up all he had and became a monk. Saying goodbye to his wife and son, he began a journey to find the meaning of life. He dressed in a yellow robe and he traveled the country, stopping to meditate, which means to think deeply. As he preached his message to people, he gathered followers. His teachings became known as Buddhism. What did Buddha teach? Some of the Buddha's ideas were not new to India. He followed some Hindu ideas and changed others. Like Hindus, the Buddha believed that the world of the spirit was more important than the everyday world. He felt that one reason people suffered in life was that they cared too much about the wrong things. These included fame, money, and personal possessions. Wanting such things could fill that person with bad emotions like greed and anger. But seeking spiritual truth, he believed, led to an inner peace. Buddha taught his followers the Four Noble Truths. He believed that these would help people seek spiritual truth. The Four Noble Truths are, number 1, life is full of suffering. Number 2, people suffer because they desire worldly things and want to satisfy themselves. 3, the way to end suffering is to stop desiring things. And number 4, the only way to stop desiring things is to follow the Eightfold Path. Now here's the Eightfold Path. Number 1, know and understand the Four Noble Truths. Number 2, give up worldly things and do not harm others. 3, tell the truth. Do not gossip. Do not speak badly of others. 4, do not commit evil acts such as killing, stealing, or living an unclean life. 5, do rewarding work. 6, work for the good and oppose evil. 7, make sure your mind keeps your senses under control. Number 8, practice meditation to see the world in a new way. That is the Eightfold Path. When people were finally free from all their earthly concerns, they would reach what was called nirvana. According to the Buddhist teaching, nirvana is not a physical place. It's an emotional, spiritual state, a feeling of perfect peace and happiness. Buddhism spread because it welcomed people from all walks of life. The Buddha placed little importance on the Varna system. He believed people's place in life did not depend on the Varna into which they were born. The Buddha explained that success of life depended on people's behavior now. Like Hindus, the Buddha believed in reincarnation, but in a different way. He taught that people could end the cycle of rebirth by following the Eightfold Path rather than the Dharma. Many people accepted the Buddha's message, especially the untouchables and the Indians in the lower jata. For the first time, these groups heard that they too could reach enlightenment. And for 40 years, Buddha taught his ideas. After his death, Buddha's followers disagreed over the meaning of Buddha's ideas, and eventually Buddhists divided into two groups. You have the first group, which was called the Theravada Buddhists, and then the second were the I'm not sure on that pronunciation, but the Mahayana Buddhists. So you have the Theravada Buddhists and the Mahayana Buddhists. The Theravada Buddhism. Theravada Buddhism means teaching of the elders. Followers of Theravada view Buddha as a great teacher but not a god. Theravada Buddhism is the major religion of the modern-day country of Sri Lanka. Buddhist teachers spread the ideas of Theravada to Myanmar, Thailand, Cambodia, and Laos. Now that pronunciation is terrible. Mahayana Buddhism teaches that Buddha is God. Mahayana Buddhism believes that the Eightfold Path is too difficult for most people, and by worshiping Buddha, people will go to heaven after they die. There they can follow the Eightfold Path and reach nirvana. Now, the next word is bodhisattvas. That's another difficult word to pronounce. Bodhisattvas hold a special place in this type of Buddhism, this school of Buddhism. Bodhisattvas are enlightened people who do not enter heaven. Instead, they stay on earth and do good deeds and help others on their path to nirvana. They're kind of like gods. The Mahayana Buddhism spread northward into China and from there into Korea and Japan. A special type of this Buddhism arose in a Central Asian country of Tibet. Buddhism leaders called lamas led the government of Tibet. Now, to this day, the Dalai Lama leads the Tibetan government, and the Panchen Lama led the religion. The Tibetans considered both leaders to be reincarnations of Buddha. Today, few Buddhists live in India, where the Buddha first preached. Buddhism, however, is widely spread in Southeast Asia and East Asia. There's an estimated 376 million Buddhists in the world today. Another religion is called Jainism. Along with Hinduism and Buddhism, another Indian faith known as Jainism arose about 500 BC. Today there are over 6 million followers of Jainism, so it's a much smaller religion. Most of them live in India. Who is a Mahavira? The exact origins of Jainism are unknown. Its current form was developed by a religious leader named Mahavira. Mahavira lived in India about the same time as the Buddha. And like Buddha, Mahavira came from a wealthy royal family in northern India. After his parents died, Mahavira gave up his wealth and property. He owned nothing and he begged for his food. Mahavira became known as the Jaina, or the conqueror. His followers became known as Jains. Many of the Mahavira's teachings were like those of Buddha. Both taught that people needed to stop wanting worldly things. Only to do so, they escaped the cycle of rebirth and reached nirvana. The Jains practiced strict poverty. So there's a lot of similarity in those. The key value in Jainism is ahimsa. This means practicing nonviolence towards all living things. Believing that all life is sacred, Mahavira's followers tried to avoid harming any living creature. For example, they used brooms to sweep insects so they would not step on them. Jains did not farm because they were afraid of plowing under worms or other living things into the soil. The idea of ahimsa has long influenced Indian culture and politics. In the 1900s, the Indian leader Mahatma Gandhi wanted to free India from Great Britain. He led a nonviolent struggle against the British rule, and thousands would come to hear Gandhi speak or simply to sit with him while he prayed. At the time, Indians refused to pay taxes or buy British goods as a show of protest. Many protesters were jailed, but India eventually gained its independence. Gandhi himself was jailed many times. Gandhi's method of nonviolent resistance jailed many times. In the United States, Dr. Martin Luther King led nonviolent protests to gain rights for African Americans. And like Gandhi, Dr. King was able to use nonviolence to bring about great change in this country.